he's sitting over there anyway, mate.
And now, for the men's single semi-final, on table one, the referee, George Bradbury. On table one, the contestants from England, ranked number 7, Eddie Barker. And the defending world champion, give it up for Mick Hill. On table 2, referee from Malta, Sasha Gauci. The contestants from England, ranked number 2, Phil Harrison. And his opponent from England, Josh Kane. Referees, let the games begin.
Yeah, the referee's no to wait for that. There's something wrong. I don't know where he's standing. Just tighten the bottom.
Yes, I was going to tell you.
You did have to tell me.
But I knew you.
But you're not going to set me up. All right. No, I hate them.
Yeah, I can't. Set me up.
Hello and welcome back to the Imperial Hotel in Blackpool for continued live coverage of the 2018 World 8-Ball Pool Championships. Semi-finals day today in the men's individual event. What a cracking couple of matches we've got coming up. Live on this table, number 1 seed, defending champion Mick Hill takes on the popular Londoner Eddie Barker, the number 7 seed. Over on the other side of the arena, Phil Harrison against Josh Kane. And this is the man that everyone comes to see. Mick Hill made this championship his own, not just for the last few years, but stretching all the way back. Won his first world title well over a decade ago now. Always a major draw, always delivers on the biggest stage of them all. And his opponent, Eddie Barker, also been around a long time, achieved a lot in the game. Yet to get his hands on the world title though, and what a result that would be for him if he could defeat Mick Hill and make his first world championship final.
Frame 1, Mick to break, time running.
So George Bradbury, the referees, rack the balls up and we're ready to go. Mick Hill winning the lag, getting us underway in the first frame. First bit of the equation completed successfully. Spotted a red ball and a yellow ball. At first glance this table looks pretty open. Mick Hill can clear up from a range of positions, but with the balls like this it's not too easy to see where the problems would come from. So unsurprisingly electing to take the yellow balls. Absolutely sublime cueist Mick Hill, just makes the game look preposterously easy, gets through the cue ball so easily. Nothing ever looks difficult about a clearance where he's involved, whether it's a short shot, a long shot, knocks them all in just the same. Ultra orthodox cue action, everything dead still apart from the arm. As expected, fairly rifling through these balls. Pressure of course on Mick as the defending champion to come here and do well, but I think the greater pressure in this match will be on Eddie Barker. Such a great opportunity for him, he's played so well to get to this semi-final. Knows that if he could just go one better, he could realise so many of his pool ambitions. If a warning sign was needed though, he'll be well aware of what Mick's capable of already, and that's a quick demonstration of it in the first frame. One break, one clearance. Mick Hill leads by 1 frame to 0.
Frame 2, Eddie to break. Trailing 1 frame.
Eddie Barker then to get us underway. Frame number 2. Number 7 seed coming into this year's tournament. Also a very classy cueist. Very, very good striker of the ball.
At the table.
Not quite the desired result though for his first break. Don't want to come up dry against any opponent, but you certainly don't want to do it against a man like Mick Hill. Still less do you want to do it when you've actually broken fairly well. He's got the ball split up quite nicely, but the one thing he hasn't done is potted one of them. So Mick looks to be going for this red to the centre pocket to start with. A few players would have just dropped that in and played the balls from where they lay, but Mick plays the more positive positional shot, gives himself an angle to drop this one into the middle and then get the cue ball up towards the top of the table. Sublime positional player, just picks out the gaps effortlessly. Just run just an inch or two further than he wanted to there. No harm done because he's still got this one over the left hand centre, but now just got to do a little bit more work with the cue ball. No problem at all there, just takes the pace out of the cue ball on that yellow. This kind of position, absolute formality for a player of mixed class. Hardly got to do anything with the cue ball. Keep it nice and tight at this end of the table. best of 19 this semi-final, so first man to 10 goes through to tomorrow's final. That final will be bringing to you live at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Slightly different format this year. We're playing on the traditional 7-foot tables. In years gone by, we've brought in an 8-foot table for these final televised stages. There's largely a history of past years when the tournament's been televised on Sky. It made for better TV viewing to have a slightly larger table. That table always suited Mick quite well. He's such a good potter that the larger table tended to be a positive for him. He was almost unstoppable once he got to that bigger table. Playing on the regular 7-foot, he's still pretty close to unstoppable. Perhaps makes a slightly more level playing field. Nothing level about the scoreline though. Mick Hill's had 2 opportunities at the table. He's cleared up on both of them. He now leads Eddie Barker by 2 frames to 0. There's a kind of blend of nervousness and excitement backstage as all 4 of the semi-finalists and the 2 referees were congregating for a short briefing from the tournament director and the senior referee just before they went out there. Phil Harrison, contesting the other semi-final, was just saying to me as he went out that no matter how many of these he's been in, he never ceases to be nervous as he goes out there. That certainly doesn't show on the table. Mick Hill's a slightly different character, always exudes a greater degree of confidence, but no reason to think that he too wouldn't have been nervous as he went out there. As soon as he gets his cue arm going though, that's all forgotten. Not the best break off there. I think probably Mick Hill would look in the direction of the referee for that. We've said before it's a slightly thankless task for the referees to get these balls racked up. I think Mick may feel that the front ball just slightly fell off the front of the pack there, just didn't give quite as good a contact. No great harm done though. He still potted a ball, potted a yellow, so was able to select yellows. Couldn't continue with his run of keep clearing up though, so Eddie Barker yet to really show us anything about his game. He's broken dry once and played 1 safety shot so far. It's a pretty tough score where after 1 break you can find yourself 2-0 down. I've played and watched Mick enough over the years to understand how that happens. That's not gone quite right. Mick's played the safety element of the shot fine, but tied up one of his balls in the process. Eddie Barker, pretty fast and fluent player normally, although I don't think he'll mind if things get a bit more bogged down here. Just play himself into this match. See the referee George Bradbury standing there, just behind him, also wearing the dinner jacket, John Hope, the senior referee for the tournament. Some of the many unsung heroes that are required to bring the tournament together. Definitely a hero, but perhaps slightly less unsung is Mick Hill, who attracts plenty of the headlines every time he turns up to play. And a few years away from the tournament, the earlier part of this decade, but back with a vengeance now. Pretty much making it his own in recent years. This isn't particularly his natural game. As you've seen for the first 2 frames, if the balls are remotely open, he'll just have them potted. But in this position, no point doing anything reckless. Although we haven't yet seen much of Eddie Barker, he's a very well respected player. Everyone knows how dangerous he can be, so Mick won't be taking any liberties. don't think we'll see too many frames turn out like this. This already having taken significantly longer than the first 2 frames put together. Not too much Mick can do at the moment. Eddie Barker on reds has obviously got a slight advantage because of the position of the red over that bottom right hand corner pocket, although he'll be aware that that can change pretty quickly. So just perfecting his cover of the pocket. I was going to say, I wonder if Mick Hill will be getting after this and having that ball potted, and exactly that. So he plays the deliberate foul. Eddie Barker now with the 2 shots, but not, as you can see, the most appealing opening shot. Pretty limited his options from this position. I think he'll have been expecting that Mick might do something like that. That's sometimes the trouble. You have a pocket covered, but with a few of your other balls tied up, your opponent's able to play this kind of deliberate foul. Different ways you can go about this. Some players, I think, would have gone for a more aggressive option there, would have got the white out of this corner and looked to play something a bit more expansive, and has decided to keep things really tight. Can't exactly argue with that approach. If you open things up, Mick pots all the balls, so doesn't exactly want to be going down that road. Slightly unfortunate that from Mick, just a little bit wide of target, just glancing off the outside of that yellow. If he'd have hit it full, that wouldn't have happened. So this is the first decent opportunity for Eddie. I don't know whether necessarily go as far as saying it's a frame winning opportunity yet, but it's an opportunity to get a real hold on this frame. He's eyeing up this red down the right hand side cushion. Pretty much exactly as played. There was no purpose in potting that because he would still have had some problems with that pocket. Happy to keep quite a few balls on the table as well, just gives him a few more options. I think the cue ball's going to be tucked up behind the black off this shot. So sticking well to the task is Eddie Barker so far, although in an ideal world he'd rather have just had a nice open table and cleared up in one visit to establish some kind of presence in the match and on the scoreboard. Slowing Mick down is certainly not a bad thing. He's already won the first 2 frames very quickly. Needs to be shown that it's not going to be too easy for him tonight, or this afternoon I should say. In theory this is quite a long match. Best of 19 frames is a pretty serious encounter by anyone's standards. Although past experience would suggest that best of 19 matches that Mick's involved with can be over in about the same time that it takes most people to play a best of 9 or a best of 11. It's definitely going to be a long day of it though if we have too many tactical frames like this. Plenty more pool coming up this afternoon. The current schedule is to have the 2 men's team semi-finals at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock respectively. So we've got 2 tables in the live streamed arena here. The team matches are going to be played over both tables. They're the best of 21 frames, 3 sessions of 7. So that takes us through 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Senior singles final and the wheelchair final will be taking place at 8 o'clock, and then that's followed up by the ladies team final at 10 o'clock tonight. So an absolute feast of high quality pool expected. Team finals are always a cracking atmosphere. Doesn't always have quite the same fluency of play as the singles finals because people are playing 1 frame at a time, but You just can't beat the team spirit and the atmosphere that's shown. A couple of great matches yesterday. Wales v France, particular highlight of the day. That's all a long way off though, because before we do that, we've got a potential 17 more frames to be played in this match. Eddie Barker still looking for his first frame of the match. His opponent Mick Hill 2 on the board already. So it's looking pretty good for Eddie though. He's got 2 balls over the right hand corner. His other 3 balls are in perfectly acceptable positions. Playing a very measured game so far. Deciding deliberately to keep more balls on the table. Could have made a case for potting 1 or 2 of the loose balls in the middle of the table where you had the chance, but figures that more balls is better now. How's this going to turn out? Oh, that's turned out very well indeed. What a classy shot from Mick Hill. What an example of how quickly things can turn around. Eddie Barker had that pocket completely locked up, and then in one shot Mick's doubled the ball up and down the table, played a deliberate foul that's opened things right up. So even though he's at the table with 2 shots, Eddie Barker's gone definite second favourite in this frame. That's not what he was looking for either. Just looking to rest that ball over the middle pocket, but it's unfortunately for him, it's just come off the jaw and rested against the side cushion in a pretty inaccessible spot. It's not going to be potting from there. If Eddie's thinking of trying to drop behind it, could look to take the ball over the ball corner pocket and try and drop behind the one that he's just left on the right hand side cushion and play that down towards the bottom right hand corner pocket, which is the money pocket as it were for this frame. That's where all the action is. It's not going to be that easy to do from where he is though. It's a bit thin on that one. Don't think that's actually possible looking at that overhead shot. So, oh well, that's almost brilliant and ultimately disastrous. Was able to get his red through towards the corner pocket, but the last thing he wanted was that flying in. If he'd have thought it was going to go in like that, he might have played the shot a bit firmer and tried to open everything up. Playing to cover the pocket. It's gone from being in a prime position in this frame to being in a rather challenging one, it has to be said. He's got 1 ball safe on the right hand side cushion. He's got 1 ball very safe in the cluster bottom right. Mick Hill meanwhile, all of his balls actually in pretty open positions. May or may not want to go for a clearance immediately, but there are attacking and defensive options open to him. So Eddie giving this pretty serious thought. Would have been happy to bump that red out. I think he was hoping to bump it out from behind and be still at the other end of the table, so he could have played that red down towards this corner pocket. That option now not available, so left with a slightly more intricate position here. He's going to have to obviously be very careful with how he plays this. There's an argument for Mick Hill covering this pocket with the yellow, but actually that, strange to say, comes with a fairly high degree of risk, because if he was to put a yellow over the pocket, then it would open up the possibility of Eddie Barker playing a deliberate foul and parking the black over the pocket in its place. So he needs to give this some thought. It's not a no-brainer to do that. On the other hand, if he doesn't get this pocket covered quickly, Eddie will be doing something with it, so balancing up those 2 risks. think he would have liked that double to go in actually, because that would have given him another shot to tidy up further at the bottom of the table. Not, of course, a major problem where things are. So, does Eddie want to risk knocking the black over the corner pocket? Yes, he does. And that's the second major swing in fortune in this frame. Eddie Barker had worked a good tactical position. He then got slightly thwarted by a long double that Mick played, which opened things up, but now he's got himself right back in this. He's looked completely at home as well, Eddie, in this tactical exchange. No surprise, of course, he's a very, very experienced player, but he's played the right shot time after time so far. Well, in fact, they both have, really. Don't know if he was necessarily expecting to pop that, but very happy to. He was playing it in the direction of that pocket. The fact that it's gone in means that he's still at the table and can continue. Yeah, one option would be to try to bump the yellow out off the side cushion. He'd like to do this in such a way that he doesn't knock the red out in the process. Oh, what a perfect shot. I mean, the quality of play. We've seen the utmost quality of potting in the first couple of frames from Mick Hill, but now the tactical play as well. Because he doubled that first yellow in, he still retained the two shots and is now about to clear up from one of the most unlikely positions imaginable. He felt like he was going to have trouble staying in the frame from the position, but instead of that, he's actually going to be winning the frame from here. And Eddie Barker, you wonder what he's got to do. I mean, he's in absolute tact control of this frame on two separate occasions, and he's going to go on to lose it now. If he thought that tactics were the way into this, he may have discovered that even that doesn't work. Mick Hill is just unstoppable. It's not even such an easy black, of course. No need to even get down to play it properly. Well, two very open frames and one tactical one, but they all count the same, and the equation is that Mick Hill has 3 on his side of the scoreboard. Eddie Barker, who played his part in a tactical exchange of the highest quality there, is still on 0. No surprise to see the referee giving this his full attention. It wasn't the best break-off in the last frame. Not necessarily his fault at all. It's sometimes hard to get the balls touching, but wants to make absolutely sure that these are as tight as possible. Eddie Barker will certainly be wanting a good split here. Didn't really have a chance in the first 2 frames. Played a very high quality tactical frame in the third. That didn't really work out either, so back to a different plan. It looks like he's planning to employ the cut break again, hitting the second ball down, the yellow in this case. Oh, look at that, the balls are raining in. Well, that's much better from his perspective. 2 reds and a yellow disappearing from the playing surface. Going to have to take the reds, regardless of his views on the merits of both, and they're actually pretty even. There's no starting yellow pot. So, first look really at Eddie Barker's potting skills. It's been confined so far to 1 break-off shot and a few safety shots. And this is a very presentable opportunity. These balls all in open positions, link up nicely. You can roll this one in, take the one up the top of the table next, the one past the black, then come back for the two on the left hand side as we look at it. Perfect cueing, very good control of the white there. Just a gentle screw shot. You can either float this in or screw across to the right hand side of the table. Oh goodness, that's an uncharacteristic miss. He looks disgusted with himself as he walks away from the table. And that was no more than pressure. That's not the kind of shot that Eddie misses with any regularity whatsoever. And Mick Hill, how easy does life get? First frame where it looked like he might not win, and just being gifted a lifeline. You've got to feel for Eddie, that was just the pressure of the situation. If he wasn't 3-0 down, he's never missing from there. Don't know if he feels it was a bad contact or if he just missed the ball, but it didn't go in, and that's the thing that matters. Now, what's Mick done here? Has he knocked this yellow too close to the side cushion that it won't pot in the middle? No, I think it probably does still drop in the middle. Oh, just looks too easy right now for Mick. Well, it seems fair that he should be gifted opportunities like this one. He doesn't even really need them, but that's not his problem. His opponent's missed, and he's made hay where the sun shined. 4 frames played, 4 frames on his side of the scoreboard. Mick Hill leads Eddie Barker by 4 frames to 0.
Red ball simply. Come on, Louise. Come on, Danny.
As he steps up to break in frame 5, the game must all seem very easy for Mick Hill at the moment. It's been completely one-way traffic so far. Almost took the referee longer to rack up those balls than it did Mick to clear them up in the previous frame. Previous frame, Eddie Barker was in first and had his first decent, presentable opportunity of a clearance, but it wasn't to be. This time, just the one ball in off the break, a yellow for Mick Hill. One's enough though, and quick to take yellows and start getting about the remaining balls. Like he was just about to strike that, but just arrested himself for a moment just to think about where to go. A little bit straight on this, so... Sorry, I misunderstood that. It seems actually Mick didn't pass the ball off the break. That's Eddie Barker that's in first. Understandably quick to the table to try and get something going. So, dry break from Mick Hill has afforded Eddie an opportunity. Really needs to take this. I said that in the last frame, but you simply cannot get too far away from Mick Hill. He's a phenomenally good front runner. Pretty good opportunity this, just got to mind what he's doing with the position. Good shot. The fact that red was there was helpful. We took some pace out of the white, otherwise the white would have needed to travel a lot further. So simple enough to pot the two yellows that are up near the baulk line. It's just a case then of leaving a decent angle on the remaining yellow, which is going to be the one next to the black. This is pretty good. He just wants to come on and off the side cushion, get the white over somewhere near where it is at the moment. That's pretty much perfect for Eddie. You can just float this yellow in round the back of the black for the black in the same pocket. Just takes a moment to steady himself as well he might. He missed a ball in the last frame that was somewhat unexpected. Certainly doesn't want to be doing that here. Is he looking to cannon the black instead? Yeah, obviously he felt that he didn't have the angle. Looked like he could just miss the cannon on the black and go around the back of it, but he wouldn't have played that shot if he didn't need to. Decided to try and play a fuller cannon into the black, but ended up catching it kind of half ball, which didn't really work. He just kind of pushed it to the cushion. Really things going from bad to worse at the moment for Eddie. He's now not really left himself any kind of shot. He's looking to double into the right hand middle pocket, which is hardly a high percentage shot. Oh, good effort. Trying to play the double off the red. Came as close as he could have done without potting it. Just slipped onto the far jaw and bounced back out. Yet again. Another frame that looks to have gone by the wayside. With most opponents, you look at the table in this position and think, well, it's a reasonably straightforward clearance, but there's always the chance they're going to miss when they've got 7 balls left. Mick Hill, you don't really have that thought process. Just pausing for a moment where the shot's being played on the other table, so just asking the referee to stop the stopwatch. 60 seconds of course allowed for each shot, although the pace that Mick plays at, I don't think we'll be hearing too many calls of 30 seconds. It's a slight difficulty. The red that Mick's knocked onto the left hand side cushion is in a slightly safe position. It's not ultimately going to cause too much trouble, but takes the opportunity to move it out. Mick's control of the angles is so good that he just effortlessly plays those shots and always seems to get the cannons just right. Any decent player would have been able to get close to playing a cannon on that ball, but for a lot of people they'd have ended up double kissing it or they'd have knocked it into a safer position. Mick Hill always just seems to have the weight and the line just right. So this is looking ominously like another frame that Eddie Barker has let slip away, which is not going to please him. He'll have known the magnitude of the task as it was. The last thing he wants to be doing is giving away frames. There's going to be enough frames when he just doesn't get a chance. The position's still not just perfect, but perfect to the fraction of an inch. If the black was any more difficult, he would have preferred not to have left this ball straight, but it's of no consequence whatsoever because the black is completely unmissable. So the red rolled along the cushion, the black hanging invitingly over the middle pocket. It's dispatched in no time at all by Mick Hill. Eddie Barker had a chance there, but he let that chance slip. Mick Hill now leads by 5 frames to 0.
Frame 6, Eddie to break, trailing 5 frames to 0.
So Eddie Barker to get us underway in frame 6. Yet to open his account on the scoreboard. And persevering with the cut break that he's used for his previous 2 breaks. Ball down, but a slightly messy setup. Well, 2 balls down in fact, it's probably one of each colour. That tends to be the trouble with that cut break. It's pretty reliable for potting a ball, but more often than not you tend to see balls driving towards one or other of the side cushions. I think right now the clearances can't really be easy enough for Eddie. Did all the hard work in the previous frame, but just ended up cannoning the black safe off his last ball. And these very fine margins. Basically just 2 shots have gone astray so far for Eddie. A missed pot in frame number 3 and a misjudged cannon in frame number 4. It's a hard school though. A player of the quality of Mick Hill, if you don't get things right, you just don't get many chances. So he's going to have to display a bit more patience in this one, Mick Hill, which doesn't look to have been a problem. There's been no lack of patience so far. It's just every time he's been given a decent opportunity to clear up, he has done so. Of the 2 players, Eddie Barker is the one that's more likely to want to turn this into a more tactical encounter. It's a pretty good shot. He's now got that pocket properly covered, and he's got it covered with 2 balls, which makes it a little bit harder to clear the pocket out for his opponent. We've seen time and time again though in this match, Mick's got no interest in getting drawn into anything unnecessary, so immediately goes for the aggressive option, and that's worked really well. The fact that he's been able to get the cue ball in behind the red dramatically limits what Eddie can do here. I don't know if that's a touching ball. If it was a touching ball, he could end up in a... It's evidently not, because he's playing into it. So if it was a touching ball, he could end up in an almost ridiculous situation of not being able to play a shot at all and just having to continue fouling in that corner, which wouldn't have been ideal. So, as we saw a couple of frames ago when the scores were Or when the balls were similarly tight, Eddie Barker electing to keep things ultra tight. See a slightly silly passage of play here where no one's going to really want to get out of this corner. So Eddie deciding to get the cue ball out and played another decent shot. Got the ball over the corner pocket and got the white tight to Mikhil's yellow, so mix options a bit limited here. Although he's got a red quite well into that corner pocket, I think the yellow probably will still pass, so Eddie's going to be mindful of the fact that he needs to continue keeping this frame fairly tight. He can't really afford to let Mick have a go at either of the two yellows that are top left in our screen as we look at them. For that reason, opts to perfect the cover of the pocket. Interesting to see what Mick does here. If there was a red that he could be sure that if he was to play a deliberate foul, which I think he might in other circumstances be tempted by, he's going to need to make sure that he leaves Eddie a shot at a red so that it's not a foul snooker. But of course he doesn't want to leave him a pot at a red because that would negate the advantage of the shot, so can't immediately go for that option. Forced into a containing safety of sorts. If this is a total snooker or if Eddie can just get through to the edge of the red there. A few games going on in the background, but the tournament very much reaching the business end all round. It's going to be the men's team semi-finals next up on the stream. 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock tonight. The men's team competition just coming to a conclusion now, so the playoff will be played shortly to determine who gets through to that final. That semi-final, I should say. So just looking at the league table in the men's team competition, all the league matches have now finished. 12 teams in the competition, so 11 matches for each of them. The two automatic qualifiers who will be going through to the two semi-finals tonight, England and Wales, and then playing off for the right to face them, Ireland, Scotland, Northern Ireland and India. Meanwhile, back at the table, Mick has picked out an innovative pot there. Got things looking pretty open. Still not perfect, of course. There's a few balls tied up, but certainly from his perspective, better than they were a moment ago. So on to his second visit. Didn't quite go right, but that's okay. Everything is still open. Don't know whether the yellow that's just to the left of the black pots into the left middle. If it does, this frame's over. If not, maybe there's still a half chance for Eddie Barker. find out in a moment from the way Mick plays these. See a crowd starting to accumulate on the far rail now. You can't really see from this shot, but there's seating on both sides of this arena. There's a few rows of seating, so there's already a crowd gathering there. A few matches still going on behind, but as those start coming to an end, the crowds will no doubt gather around the table. Well, that's an unusual miss from Mick Hill. You can see that's the first ball in this match that he's been playing to pot that he's missed. Such a perfectionist that even at 5-0 up, disappointed to miss that. And this is a chance that Eddie Barker has absolutely got to be taking. Can run this red down the left hand side cushion as a plant, the cue ball naturally coming across into the centre of the table to allow him to get onto the other red. That's absolutely perfect. The two reds unmissable, plant one onto the other, then a simple positional shot onto the black. Just taking care though, if he'd have hit that too much harder he might have potted both reds at once, which, although that wouldn't have mattered, would have made the shot on the black harder. So just played a delicate shot, easy shot now out onto the black, and being immensely relieved Eddie Barker that deposits this black into the centre pocket. So it's starting to look like it could be a very heavy scoreline against him, and it's for precisely that reason that Mick Hill looked so disappointed at missing that ball. 6-0, it's not so much that it matters really one frame either way. Mick's got a big lead already, but it's just the fact that he was keeping his opponent away from scoring, and whilst his opponent was on 0, he had him under such immense pressure that it was going to be very hard for him to play his way into the match. 5-1 still a big scoreline against him, but at least Eddie can relax to a degree now. He's starting to show a bit more of what he's capable of. He's played pretty well, in fact, so far. He hasn't really done a whole lot wrong, but just 2 shots have got away from him. The only things he could have done differently. Everything else has just been Mick clearing off his own break or off Eddie's break. George Bradbury racks things up for the 7th frame. It's Mick Hill that leads Eddie Barker by 5 frames to 1. So, Mick Hill breaks off in frame 7. The usual big powerful break. Slightly lost control of the white there though. He has potted a ball, but the white's not really finished in the best spot. Luckily for him, the ball that he's potted is a red, so that at least makes the safety shot that's inevitably going to come here slightly more straightforward. So, will winning that last frame spur Eddie Barker on to greater things? He's played very solidly so far, but been starved of opportunities, and those that he has had have somewhat eluded him apart from that last frame. Looking at whether he can play the yellow off the red to get it in or over the left hand bottom corner pocket. Be happy with that. Got that pocket nicely covered. If Mick had had an open shot after the break, it's very likely that we'd have seen him going for the clearance. Forced, of course, into playing a safety shot because he's finished up touching one of his reds. Now, as a result of that, he's allowed his opponent back to the table, and the layout of the balls has got messed up a little bit. Mick's now got 2 reds in this bottom left-hand corner that don't really go anywhere. So, as we've seen on 3 occasions now in this match, very happy to play the deliberate foul, throw down the gauntlet for Eddie Barker in a situation that he knows is going to be difficult, and in a situation where he knows Eddie's under a lot of pressure. Hard to argue with the logic in this spot as well. Eddie's got no easy opener. He's going to probably try to pot a ball here to keep things going. Good plant. That was important. As long as he keeps the 2 shots in hand, he's still in with a glimmer of a hope here. Few problems though, as you can see. The ball tied together bottom left, and the 2 in the top left hand corner, at least one of them's tied up and the other one's fairly tight. I think this ball probably will go cleanly if he wants to pot it. He doesn't though, he wants to cover that pocket, and that's a sensible enough shot. Still got 1 visit remaining, so can look to do a bit of further tidying up. Ideally he'd love, of course, to do something with the bottom left hand corner, but that's not going to be that easy from where he is. Oh, that's a bad outcome. That's a very bad outcome. Played quite a clever shot to get another yellow towards that pocket, but passing the one that he'd worked so hard to get over the corner pocket is not what he wanted at all. Against a different opponent, you'd suggest that he might just play this yellow across and pot the red that's over the bottom left-hand corner pocket, but well, he has done. Well, he's tried to do that. Oh goodness, that's turned out badly as well. I was going to say, I think he'd have been a little bit nervous about doing that in the first place against somebody as good as Mick Hill, but that's the worst possible result. He's got his ball tied up and he hasn't put any pressure on Mick at all. So Mick's got 2 shots from this position. Don't think he's going to be looking to clear up just yet, but he'll certainly be looking to tidy up the ball that he's got tied up. Could play the red that's 2 off the cushion. No, going the other way. Oh, of course, I apologise, of course Eddie Barker failed in playing a deliberate foul. I was thinking Mick had 2 shots, which he doesn't. I was thinking that because that was what Eddie had tried to achieve, but in fact he didn't achieve that. So, second go at it. He's played a more difficult version of the same shot. This time he has given the 2 shots away. So Mick Hill with a little bit more to think about. So that's a more positive shot, at least from Eddie's perspective, that he's managed to play that. So immediately opting to get the one difficult red out, knowing that he was always going to leave himself some kind of shot at least one of the other reds. This is all looking pretty good now for Mick Hill. Only got the one visit remaining, but all the balls are in fairly accessible positions. Hard to imagine him needing more than one shot from this position. I don't know if this red that's resting directly on the baulk line pots into the bottom right hand corner pocket. It obviously does. I was going to say that makes it even easier if it does. Wasn't a big problem if it didn't, but all very easy now for Mick. So yet again Eddie fought his way back into the frame, but ultimately to no avail. After that tactical interlude, Mick Hill senses blood and gets after it again. So we've now had 7 frames played. Mick Hill's won 6 of them and leads Eddie Barker by 6 frames to 1. He's done so well to reach this semi-final, but it's been a tough day at the office so far for Eddie Barker as he steps up to break in frame number 8, trailing by 1 frame to 7. Keeps faith with the cut break, which he's potted off 2 now out of the 4 breaks that he's used it for. Come up dry though this time. Not quite such an open layout. You can see a few clusters of balls around the table. No surprise to see Mick favouring the reds, but still a couple of things to think about. That's finished a little bit awkward as well. This shot, if he could have got his hand on the table, he'd have had a few more options. The main problem ball is the one at the very top of our screen as we currently look at it, the red that's near the middle pocket. But that ball's in quite a good position to play a double. If he just ends up somewhere near the centre line between the 2 middle pockets, that would be a fairly close to unmissable double. Hampered by that red, that ball along the cushion was a little bit more difficult than it would have been. As a result, eludes him. Happy, of course, to see it hang over the pocket, but he would have been equally happy to see it go in. So back to the table for Eddie Barker, but not the most promising of positions, you wouldn't feel. Long way to go, of course, in this match. Best of 19 frames, but Mick Hill already over halfway there. Currently holding a 6-1 advantage. Eddie doing his best to tighten things up on the left-hand side of the table as we look at it. The only slight problem with that shot is that, fortunately for him, he's opened up a path for the red that's currently resting on the top of the screen. Mick can't obviously do anything with it from here because he's not got the cue ball in the right position, but if he was to end up somewhere on the right hand side of the table, he would be able to play that ball down and pot it or put it over the corner pocket. That's a clever shot. Gets both of the reds out in one go. So now pressure mounting on Eddie Barker, apart from the obvious pressure of being 6-1 down to one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world at the moment. In this frame, all the reds are suddenly appearing in more open positions, so Eddie knows that Mick might even go for a clearance as early as the next visit, or even if he doesn't, he's not far away from that point now, so got to start making something happen. It's easy enough to figure out what he does with the 6 balls at this end of the table, but what on earth does he do with the yellow that's resting up near the baulk cushion? Just pausing a moment where the player takes a shot on the next table. So although he, in an ideal world, wouldn't have wanted to move the ball that was covering that bottom right hand corner pocket, it wasn't really protecting against very much, so decided to play the more positive shot. Couldn't get quite enough pace into it though. He slightly opened things up here, but it's still not got things completely open. I mean, it's okay, obviously if he was looking for something attacking, he can put the ball over the pocket and break out the two that are clustered together to the left. That still doesn't really answer the bigger question, which is what does he do with the one at the top of the table. So he's going to try and cover the top right hand corner pocket. And that's not worked out very well. He got caught between two options there. He was trying to cover the pocket. If he was going to pot the ball, he may as well have played it a bit harder. That wasn't really the sensible shot from where he was to have potted it, but now it's gone in, he's thinking, well, why didn't I try and clear that pocket out? So, still the same problem as there has been for quite a few shots now. The balls at the bottom of the table are open, but there's one stuck at the top. Just knows that his opponent's just sitting there waiting to pounce. Mick Hill, as soon as he comes back to the table, wherever you leave him, he's going to have some kind of shot, you would feel. Could try to play some kind of safety shot where he gets the white hidden in this cluster, but it's going to be difficult, I think. Never lost faith with the task though, Eddie. He's played very consistently the whole way through this. He hasn't rushed into anything or thrown his arm at anything. Not that you'd expect him to, he's got a wealth of experience. Well, another attempt to cover the top right hand corner pocket, that's gone quite badly astray. Flicked the red into play en route. So, another frame you feel may have gone by the wayside for Eddie Barker. Bit of work to do, of course. I'm perhaps getting slightly ahead of myself, but you just know how good Mick is in these positions. From Mick's perspective, it's all about the reds that are around the top right hand corner pocket. So that one on the cushion is just under the Supreme Pool logo, is a little bit difficult to get onto, although not very difficult. This tournament, sponsored as it has been for a number of years by Supreme Pool Tables and by Aramith. The playing conditions exceptional as always. High quality tables, Supreme Pool tables with Strachan cloth on them. That's one of the joys of playing in tournaments like this, not just the occasion and the quality of position, but the quality of the facilities as well. The Imperial Hotel in Blackpool playing host as it has done for 11 years now. First time I remember coming up here was 2007, I think that was the first event at this hotel. Moved a few hotels down the coast from the Hilton Hotel in Blackpool and the Norbreck Castle in Blackpool. Both played host to the tournament over the years. Been in Blackpool now since about 1993, I think. The first ever event was held in Manchester, but Blackpool's been its spiritual home since then. Blackpool's been a happy hunting ground for Mick Hill, both this year and in recent years. Another frame notched up on his side of the scoreboard. He now leads Eddie Barker by 7 frames to 1. A lot of players, both in the arena and at home, winning Eddie Barker on, but right now it's hard to see where he's going to get a foothold in this match. So Mick Hill breaks us off in frame number 9. The usual service is resumed. Red ball finding its way into the middle pocket. Not a bad split, not quite as good as some that we've seen from Mick so far in this match, but don't think that will bother him, just gives him a little bit more to think about. Some of the clearances you feel he's had so far have almost looked too easy. They've not looked easy because they've been easy, they've looked easy because he's made them easy, but nonetheless, I don't think he'll necessarily mind things being a little bit more difficult. Assume this yellow doesn't pass the black into the centre pocket. If it does, this actually isn't a bad opportunity for Eddie Barker. Well, that's a bit of a bonus. He's played a great shot to play it in off the red. Not a bad position at all for Eddie. Just the one yellow slightly tied up at the bottom of the table, but otherwise things not looking too bad. Problem is, of course, when you're 7-1 down, how easy do you want things to be? It's not the most attractive position for him. Played to pretty much the same consistent standard the whole way through though, Eddie. He's not really been responsible for too many mistakes as such. It's just been that opportunities have been in short supply and he hasn't always been able to capitalise on a couple of the more marginal ones. Sure, he'd be happy just to be at the table and potting some balls. Hasn't had too many opportunities to do that. If you're not his opponent, it's quite fun watching McHill clear a table. There's a certain poetry to it, but it becomes somewhat less amusing when you're the one that's standing there waiting for a chance. So, what's the plan for the one at the bottom of the table? Well, very nervous moment as that red careered towards the corner pocket. It would have been disastrous if that had gone in. That was quite ambitious. I'm not sure quite what he had in mind there, whether he thought he could get the white round those reds or whether he was hoping to knock a red towards the yellows, or whether he was just maybe none of the above. He was maybe just trying to hold position off the red, but whatever happened, that red ended up a lot closer to the corner pocket than he intended. Unfortunately, that's rather blocked things off. Well, the options weren't great, but that one definitely wasn't great. So, on to his second visit, but unfortunately, having knocked that yellow safe on the left-hand side cushion, things were rather more difficult than they might have been. Wow, that's a great effort and a brave effort to pot that ball and screw back in the way he did. Takes a decent piece of cueing, and he's a very good cueist. If anyone can do it, it is him, but that was asking a lot of himself. And the problem with this situation, as it's been time after time, is that the times that Eddie's got in and had clearances that he's missed, he just keeps leaving Mick these really open opportunities. Most top players are going to clear up from this kind of position, but Mick is particularly relentless at doing so. Don't know if the players will look to take an interval after this frame. I don't think we've got an officially scheduled mid-session interval in the way that we sometimes do with these matches, but I think traditionally in a best of 19 one takes a short break after the first 9 frames, just allow both players to go out of the arena and compose themselves. Certainly don't think that'll be a bad thing for Eddie Barker, although I don't know what his state of mind will be really. I think he may feel, I think he'll feel a degree of disappointment of course, but I think he may feel that there's a limit to what he could have done so far. There've definitely been a couple of chances that could have gone differently, and that may have changed the outcome of the match because it may have put a bit more pressure on Mick. He's not really been under any obvious pressure at any stage, and as a result he's been sauntering around the table looking like he's practicing in his living room. So McHill secures that frame, goes 8-1 up. I think he's just conferring with the referee about whether they will be taking an interval. Brief discussion there about whether an interval would be taken, and the players seem to have reached a consensus that they're happy to carry on. And possibly from Eddie's point of view, he doesn't really want too much time to think about this. Still looks pretty calm, but just wants to get on and wants to win a few frames. So, breaking off in the 10th frame. Keeps faith with the cut break. I wouldn't say it served him brilliantly so far, but it's obviously served him well to get to this point in the tournament, so understandable that he's going to stick with the same break. There's no point changing on a whim once you get to this stage. Balls didn't move around that much, but a red found its way into the corner pocket, which is good enough. Don't think there's any yellows he could go for even if he wanted to, so presumably we'll be sticking with the reds. Well, that ball did absolutely everything but fall in. It's rested right on the jaw of the pocket. Don't know what Eddie's thinking was with that. May have been playing it as a sort of two-way shot, may have been deliberately trying to cover the pocket. It's pretty much fine where it is. These yellows are not in a bad position. A couple of them are tied up a little bit. Mick's shown a decent degree of patience, although not generally a man to turn down a clearance where it's on offer, so no surprise to see him get after things. I think this yellow does still come down and pop into the bottom right hand corner pocket, so can continue with this current effort. The only difficult yellow is the one that's sitting on the left hand side cushion just below the middle pocket. There's not a lot of room to get on it. I mean, where the cue ball is probably the best place if you're just going to pot it down the cushion, unless you can get in even tighter. May decide to leave it for later and get to it off the yellow that's over the middle pocket. Indicative of the fact there's a little bit more to think about, the fact that McHill's taking a moment with this shot. He's very fast when the path is obvious around the table. Made sense to take that ball there, because although it was a reasonably simple pot, it wasn't always going to, from some angles he might have cannoned one of the reds. He had kind of a nice path. It was a straightforward pot and he could get the white out of there. Still a little bit to think about. If he gets to that point, the black will pot top left, I think, so just needs to find a way of coming up the right hand side of the table at the end of the clearance. Had the choice there of either dropping that ball into the middle and just dropping onto the yellows on the left hand side, or going for the more positive split. It's one of the first kind of power cannons that we've seen in play so far. I don't know if you can you see the potting angle of this ball? Well, couldn't come much closer with that double. So you couldn't see the potting angle to cut it. That's what I'm saying, one of the first power cannons he's played. It was one of the first shots where I guess you'd say he was trusting to a little bit more luck. He's played a lot of slow cannons that have been a bit more reliable in outcome because he's been playing them with a bit more control. That one was a slightly different type of shot. Didn't quite come out right. Although, it was a very good attempt at a double. Doubles into the middle pockets are pretty straightforward, but doubles into the corners aren't always quite so easy to judge, and Mick came pretty close to that. It's just slightly overdone that. Eddie was trying to get the black safe. He's got it reasonably tight to the baulk cushion, but he'd have liked it to be a bit closer to the right hand corner. There's still quite a lot of space for Mick to come up the right hand side of the table and drop in behind it if he gets to that point. A little bit to think about here. The only easy pot is the one that's over the corner pocket, but position off that is not very easy to get onto either of the other two yellows. There is a path through the two reds, but I don't know if he's going to be tempted by that. That might be an unnecessary risk to take. Could take the yellow on long down the left hand side of the table or play it as a cross double. Well, I had a feeling he was considering something a bit more attacking. That really is pretty attacking, playing the cue ball up and down like that. When it comes out as well as that, it seemed obvious that that was the right shot, but I tell you, not everyone would have played it anywhere near as well as that. There's plenty that could have gone wrong with that shot. Time yet again slightly running out for Eddie here. The yellows are all in pretty good position, so needs to get something going. And that's a pretty good start. Only got the one ball that doesn't go at the moment, which is the one on the right hand side cushion. Might be able to look to drop behind it. Yeah, that's what he has done here. This is too difficult to pot. You can't really play these ones. It's not like an American pool table where you can play these down the rail just to pot them, but because there's a ball hanging over the pocket, there's definitely scope to play this as a plant. It just makes it a bigger pocket. In fact, he hit it so well, he probably would have potted it anyway, but you probably wouldn't take that shot on normally if there wasn't a plant available. So this is good from Eddie. A moment ago this was looking like this frame might have got away from him, but still very much in the balance at the moment. All three reds in accessible positions. Taking on a second plant here. Cued it nicely. In an ideal world it would be easier to leave the red over the top right hand baulk pocket till last to get onto the black off. He'll do that as long as he can hold this. He obviously feels he can hold this off two cushions. Just want to bring the white back to somewhere near where his left hand is at the moment. A bit further over to the side, but it's exactly the same angle, so that's absolutely fine. He's not going to be able to get the cue ball too far away from the cushion. That's the only small snag of this position, so he's going to have to stroke this one along the cushion. Just got to stroke these ones nicely. You don't want to quit on them, otherwise you end up drawing them. Just get through the cue ball. Nice smooth pace. Nice shot from Eddie Barker, showing the quality of cueing that he brings to the game. So, a rare frame on his side of the scoreboard, but good clearance at the end there. Pulls one back. It's now Mick Hill 8, Eddie Barker 2.
Frame 11, Mick to break. leading 8 frames to 2.
If you're just joining us, a warm welcome to the Imperial Hotel in Blackpool, where we're midway through or approaching the end of the 2018 World 8-Ball Pool Championships. Today, semi-finals day in the men's individual competition, the most prestigious of all, of course, where Mick Hill takes on Eddie Barker. And it's the multiple world champion and defending champion Mick Hill who's currently having the better of things. Eddie Barker won the last frame though and has got things off to a much better start in this frame. He's I'm not sure that graphic's right. I think Mick Hill must have broken in this frame, so it's him in fact that's got things off to a good start and it looks like clearing up. So it looks like Eddie Barker's scoring exploits in the last frame are going to be short-lived. Mick racing through these balls. So it's just these 2 frames to put him on 9, which will be only 1 away from victory. Best of 19 this men's semi-final. First player to 10 goes through to tomorrow's final. And his 3rd clearance from the break of this match from Mick Hill to add to the 1 he's had off Eddie Barker's break. 4 first visit clearances supplementing a number of other fine quick fire clearances, and it's those clearances that have led Mick Hill into this 9 frames to 2 lead. Eddie Barker hasn't done a great deal wrong in this match. He's let a couple of opportunities go early on. I'm not sure, to be honest, however many opportunities he had would have been enough the way Mick Hill's been playing so far. Eddie Barker then stepping up to break in what could be his last frame of this match. He trails by 2 frames to 9 in this best of 19 encounter. Semi-finals of the Men's Individual World Pool Championships 2018. Good break there from Eddie, that's what he needs. 3 balls down, 2 reds and a yellow. Just meanwhile to update you on the scores from the other semi-finals. Phil Harrison currently leading Josh Kane by 6 frames to 3. Be a mouth-watering prospect whichever of those players gets through, but a Hill-Harrison final be a repeat of last year's encounter. Those 2 have been the preeminent players in this tournament in recent years, so that would be a fitting result, although Josh Kane will have plenty to say about that still. He's a World Masters champion, of course, last year. Eddie Barker setting about the yellow balls here, and everything currently looks pretty smooth sailing for him. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the frame he needs to stay in the World Championship semi-finals and keep alive his dream of reaching his first World Final, he would have little doubt about him clearing up from here, but that does of course add an additional degree of pressure. Been a good progression for Eddie Barker. Reached the quarterfinals in 2016. Reached the last 16, I should say, in 2016. The quarterfinals in 2017. Semi-finals in 2018. He very much hopes, though, that this isn't the last chapter of the 2018 story. One good positional shot here to screw up the table for the black. He struck that nicely. Still cueing the ball very well. And a great quality clearance from Eddie Barker. His first clearance from the break of this match. The frame he needed to stay in this match and to stay in this tournament. Makes no mistake, does what he needs to. He's still a long way behind, but he's pulled one back. Mick Hill leads by 9 frames to 3. So as Mick Hill steps up to break in frame number 13, he knows that his destiny is in his own hands. He's got this break and several more to come. Just needs one frame to book a place in the 2018 World Championship final. Red ball down off the break. He's had a fairly smooth path through to this final, Mick Hill, although few people have taken a few frames off him along the way. Beat Danny Davies 8-4 in the last 64. Paul Clack from Australia 8-2 in the last 32. David McQuillan of Ireland 8-4 in the last 16. And then a very strong win over Giuseppe D'Imperio, who himself has appeared in the last stages of this tournament on multiple occasions, 9-4 in the quarters. So gentle warm-up for Mick Hill in those matches, not pushed all the way by any means in all of them, but each of his opponents took a few frames off him, so gave him something to think about. Eddie Barker, dangerous opponent, and has given Mick something to think about, but just hasn't been able to apply a sustained enough pressure so far in this match. Mick Hill's been playing with a degree of freedom that befits a multiple world champion, and which is characteristic of his style of play normally. Hasn't really been under any significant pressure at any stage. No, of course, that he can't take any liberties, and certainly won't have taken this match for granted at the beginning, but things have been going pretty well for him so far. He's been afforded some fairly straightforward clearances, and he's also manufactured a few top draw clearances from his own breaks. 4 first visit clearances so far from Mick Hill versus the 1 from Eddie Barker, which goes in part to explain the scoreline. Waiting for his opportunity though to get through to the final as Mick decided to play the patient game, played a safety shot. It's been a tremendous run regardless of the outcome of this match for Eddie Barker through to this final. Had a tough match in his last 64. He could easily have gone out there. Declan Brennan of Northern Ireland held him to an 8-6 result. Pleased to get over the line, no doubt, in that one. and had a good win over the quality Frenchman Yannick Beaufils, 8-3 in the last 32. Beaufils we saw a bit of in the stream yesterday, playing for France in the team match. He's got a good record over the years in the singles competition, so a tough opponent there. And Scott Muscat of Malta, Eddie disposed of 8-2 in the last 16, before arguably his best match of the tournament so far, beat the long-time England captain Lee Kendall 9-4 in the quarter-final. So he's beaten some good players along the way. Don't beat Lee Kendall unless you're a very strong player. Although of course on this occasion it was Eddie that was the seeded player, holding 7th spot by virtue of his last 16 and quarter-final appearances in the last couple of years. This run to the semi-final will have pushed him up the rankings. He'll now have the rankings calculated over a 3-year period. He's now got a last 16, a quarter and a semi at minimum to count for his rankings. Mick Hill pretty well cemented at the number 1 spot. It would take a lot to knock him off. I mean, the defending champion is of course always going to be the number 1 seed, but Mick will be top of the ranking points regardless of what happens today and regardless of what happens tomorrow in the final if he reaches that. Such as his lead at the moment at the top of the rankings. Ten frames played in the other semi-final. Phil Harrison's won 7 of them. Josh Kane back on 3, so Phil Harrison currently looking favourite for that one, but a long way to go still in that match. Phil Harrison came into this year's tournament as the number 2 seed, so if the 2 matches do finish in accordance with their current score lines, it will be 1v2 in tomorrow's final. Oh, good effort that from Mick Hill. That was an ambitious shot, but a shot of a man who's 9-3 up. Shoots a wry smile as he goes away from the table. All business though for Eddie Barker. He knows he's got to get this job done. This is a good opportunity he's now facing. The win's a long way off, but Eddie Barker wants to show to everyone what a good player he is. He's got nothing to prove to anybody, but disappointing of course when you lose by a big scoreline in a semi-final like this. So 3 balls stand between Mick Hill and the place in tomorrow's final. Mick Hill just asking for the referee for a timeout as a shot's played on the next table. Don't think he'll need the full 60 seconds in any event, but just wants to make sure he gives himself the best opportunity. So just wants to plant these reds, leave the red hanging nicely over the corner pocket. Now just wants to draw the cue ball across somewhere near the left hand side cushion, somewhere near the balk line or just below would be ideal. He's got into that a little bit more than he needed, but no problem at all. Still got a clear shot at the black, so this black for Mick Hill to book his place in his 2nd consecutive World Championship final. No problem at all, the black's down. What a quality performance from Mick Hill. 10-3 might be a slightly flattering scoreline. Eddie Barker played his part in this match and he's played his part in this tournament. Commiserations to Eddie Barker on what's been a tough day at the office, but every congratulation goes to Mick Hill. Absolutely relentless as he always is, clearance after clearance. 4 clearances from the break, a number of other top draw clearances. Mick Hill books his place in tomorrow's final. That final will take place at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We'll meanwhile be back with more streaming at 4 o'clock today for the team final, or you can watch the other semi-final, is still ongoing. Visit wepf.org to get the stream for that. Thank you for your company for this match. Congratulations again to Mick Hill. He prevails by 10 frames to 3 over Eddie Barker.